All right, let's talk about post WrestleMania wrestling, where, WrestleMania was actually quite entertaining, but then we go back to the TV shows and it's anything but. And that includes both WWE and AEW. I mean, both have different problems, I guess, that I will try to discuss. We'll start with the WWE and Raw being a nothing show. For years, the Raw after WrestleMania, you watched it to see who shows up. I guess who gets called up from NXT, or possibly what the next stories will be. But the Raw after WrestleMania gave us a whole lot of nothing. The only highlight from that long ass 3-hour show was the Cody Rhodes promo, because they didn't script his promo. They just let him go out there and talk. He cut a great promo. Yes, maybe similar to some of his promos in AEW, but he got the emotions across. Got his dream was to be the first Rhodes to win the WWE title, hand that title to his dad. Obviously, Dusty died years ago, but he still has that dream. So I liked that promo. They need to keep Cody and Roman apart. Is Cody the person that should eventually beat Roman? I mean, that's the most natural storyline to go towards. I mean, I think Cody's made his storyline what it is. And I wonder how long Cody has actually been thinking about coming back to the WWE, because him wanting that story in AEW, where if he lost that match, I don't remember even who it was against. I'm assuming MJF maybe. If he lost that match, he would never get a shot at the AEW title, and he lost it. I wonder if this whole time he wants that WWE title, because that's the story he wanted to tell. I don't know. I don't know how deep it goes with Cody, but I do find that very interesting. The rest of the show was a joke. I did my how I would book Raw with Elias's return. His return needed to be, at the very least, his return needed to be intriguing and mysterious. But instead, we get a joke, of course, with him being Ezekiel and saying, oh, he's Elias's younger brother, and just pretending he's not Elias, when he could have just had a whole new persona that was actually intriguing to come back to. But instead, we get a joke, of course, because that's all WWE is good for, is bad comedy that isn't even funny. I mean, I can't actually blame the fans at that Raw eventually just getting pissy, because they already had to go through 2 days of WrestleMania. SmackDown was also in Dallas, Texas. So probably a lot of those same fans have been watching wrestling for 4 nights straight, which is that's a lot. So, Bianca's promo didn't turn out so well, and the fans kind of turned on her a little. I don't know what to make of that. I think it was just a combination of those fans being pissy, and I don't know, maybe there were some Becky fans in the audience, who knows. But they didn't move that story anywhere. We have this new stable with Edge and Damian Priest. It's not the worst thing. I want to like it, but similar to Elias or Ezekiel or whatever the fuck you want to call him, I don't find this to be intriguing either. We're just supposed to believe that Edge is this new kind of evil villain, and that he's going to get followers, I guess. That's the story they're going for. I don't know. I just wish there was more setup. But you can't expect that from wrestling in 2022, because they don't even try. And then Raw ends with a non-Roman promo that basically is to try and get you to watch SmackDown. Yeah, Raw was just terrible. It was long, boring. The Raw after WrestleMania just ended up being a joke. And we got no new stories for Raw coming out of WrestleMania. Also, I don't know. I just really think the idea that I gave for Cody in my booking of Raw, if you want to go watch that video, was also natural to do, because his story to be a natural champion, yes, he cut a great promo. I can't take that away from him. That was probably the best promo in wrestling of the week. Spoiler alert for if I do the best of the week at the end of this video. But Seth Rollins comes out and just shakes his hand. There's just no drama. They give us nothing. I think the natural story is that Cody should be an outsider coming back to the WWE after all this years, after the way he left. That's another story that just writes itself. I just don't know why wrestling makes things just this hard. So let's move over to SmackDown. Honestly, not that much better. We got at least some call-ups from NXT, but they didn't really lead to much. You know, the Rousey and Charlotte Flair feud continuing is already a bad thing because it was already getting stale and not good, mostly because of Rousey's not so great mic work. And we saw it here again. You know, they were in Milwaukee. That's kind of a more Marcus territory. So I'm not surprised Rousey also had a mixed reaction. I think that's going to possibly continue because I don't know if Ronda Rousey is all that rootable, honestly, as a face. But yeah, Rousey wants a rematch in an I Quit match. Charlotte says no. And then they use the same exact line that they just used for the Becky and Bianca feud. That basically Charlotte tells Ronda she needs to get to the back of the line to work her way back up to get a title shot. So I don't know if they're just trying to retell that story because the Becky and Bianca feud worked or what, but just more bad ideas. And let me remember to talk about Bruce Prichard because I think that's who needs to get a lot of this blame. I mean, obviously Vince McMahon deserves a lot of the blame, but Bruce Prichard is one of the worst storytellers in wrestling history. I mean, I know he gets credit for the Kane and Undertaker story, but we'll save this for the next few minutes. Let me finish SmackDown first, and then I'll try to remember to talk about Bruce Prichard and why I think he needs a lot of this blame. We get the New Day out. They're still happy-go-lucky. Like, I just don't understand how the New Day shtick has not changed a little. They need to start getting more serious or something because this shtick is beyond still. And the fact that Biggie gets hurt and they're just la-di-da, they don't even care, is weird. It doesn't make any sense as characters. But Xavier beats Butch, and then they have this Butch becoming a caricature who's like a petulant child who's just sitting on the ring after the match with his arms folded. So, like, I don't hate the gimmick as much as a lot of people because I was never very high on Pete Dunne as a wrestler in the first place. But, you know, he's throwing himself into this character, and that's one way that I can respect a wrestler. But the WWE needs to not go too far with the character, and then it just becomes a caricature because that seems to be all they want to do right now. Like, if you can't tell, they're regressing back to the mid-90s, which is why I want to blame Bruce Prichard, because he was the cause of that horrible television in the mid-90s. Then we have Sami Zayn come out. He has a match with Drew McIntyre, you know. Sami Zayn, they continue to give him like a weasel-like character. So he has that match with Drew McIntyre, gets himself counted out. I don't care about this feud, is really all I can say. I love the character of Sami Zayn, but they half-ass it constantly. I think Jack in the comments said that on my SmackDown booking. And I agree. So we get the NXT call-ups. They've changed the name. Ludwig Kaiser, who introduces Gunther. You know, Gunther, I guess, the new monster heel on SmackDown. We also have Raquel Gonzalez, who is getting called up as Raquel Rodriguez on SmackDown. She has this segment in the back with Los Lotharios trying to introduce themselves, trying to come on to her. Whatever. Then we had maybe the only thing that worked for me was they kind of turned Madcap Moss face by Corbin trying to basically turn on him and them getting into it and Madcap stepping on Corbin's hat. So we at least got a face turn that kind of works. I think Madcap Moss could be a decent face, even though I think his character and shtick is also lame and also mid-90s and also still. We had I wouldn't even call it a promo, it was like a backstage, or just, I don't know what it was, but it was like a video of Lacey Evans explaining her story, her abusive father, and, you know, WWE can use more of this to actually make their characters more fleshed out and not become caricatures. So I liked this from Lacey Evans. That was another decent thing on SmackDown. But then we end the show with Roman and the Usos talking about how Roman wants the Usos to go to Raw, win the Raw tag titles so they could unify those titles as well. And then Shinsuke Nakamura seems to be Roman's next feud, which does nothing for me. So yeah, that about sums up the WWE. And look, I talked about it a little. Bruce Prichard wrote most of the Raws in the 90s, or booked most of the Raws in the mid 90s, where we had just cartoon characters, basically. We had the Goon and Mantar and fucking the evil dentist. I mean, it was terrible. So that's why I think Bruce, if you watch Raw and SmackDown, you see how bad some of these characters are, that they get regressed to cartoons or just the lowest common form of a character. That's Bruce Prichard all over it. He's been back in the WWE for years now, and he's not doing a good job whatsoever. Bruce Prichard's WWE creative has never been noteworthy when he's the one in charge. Like, if he's throwing at ideas, you might get a good idea like Undertaker and Kane come out of him. But when he's like the main guy kind of in charge of creative, which I feel like he is, I mean, obviously Vince McMahon, everything goes through him. But Bruce Prichard is like the head producer. So I can just tell that's why we're getting the shit that we're getting and why the TV shows are so bad. Now let's get to AEW. And here's the biggest problem I have with AEW, and that is because Tony Khan just continues to book to the fans he already has. And while maybe that's not the worst thing in the world, it still makes for boring television, which is my biggest problem with modern wrestling. There's all this wrestling on television, and all of it is boring, lame, bad. And so one of my biggest issues with AEW is the fact that any TV show I've watched of AEW over the past year and a half or whatever, every single match is predictable. You know the outcome of every match that's going to happen before it happens. And how is that interesting in any way? It's not. And I don't even follow the product closely, and I can still know who's going to win every single match. I just think that is boring. And they also, the whole record thing and how they just decided that to build up all their wrestlers, because in wrestling matches, like, it's a real sport. I mean, whatever, it works with some, but it doesn't work with most, as you see with their own world champion. I just think that is also boring, lazy booking. You know, the dirt sheets and the hardcore AEW fans want to praise Tony Khan at every turn, but I don't think this product can improve unless one of two things happen. Either the ratings falter heavily and Tony Khan has to make changes and maybe get somebody to help him book wrestling as a better TV show. Because, you know, right now their ratings are good enough. Like, they can't stay over 1 million viewers to save their lives. But, you know, they have their solid fan base of, like, just under 1 million, basically. And it works, but I don't think the TV shows are ever going to get better unless the ratings actually falter enough for Tony Khan to have to make changes. Or the fans turn on Tony Khan, because right now Tony Khan thinks he is just the bee's knees, the son of a billionaire, thinks he is finally fitting in with people. Because he every time there's a new debut, who is beside that wrestler? Tony Khan. Anytime something big happens after the show, who goes out to praise the wrestler but also get praise for himself? Tony Khan. It's so weird, first of all, but that's what he does. He uses all of this to indulge his own ego, I guess. I don't know, but you always see Tony Khan out with the new people he signs, out when something big happens because he wants to be a part of it. I mean, the dude's living his dream. Obviously, he loves wrestling, and his dad pays for all of this. So why not just go out there and be able to do that? But I think if the fans ever get sick of Tony Khan wanting to be this billionaire that indulges in his ego, then maybe he also will have to make some changes. I think those are the only two things that could ever make Tony Khan make the changes that needs to be made to make the AEW TV shows actually good and interesting. Now, with that being said, do I think Dynamite is more entertaining than Raw and SmackDown usually? Yes. Do I think this past Dynamite was interesting though? No. Look, we had the Adam Cole Christian Cage match. They just want to make this Adam Cole Hangman Adam Page match or feud work so badly, but it's not working, and this isn't going to help it either. So we're going to have that Texas Death Match as a live Rampage. They also just are overdoing it with the hardcore shit. In case you can't tell, all the blood in AEW, all these hardcore matches, it's going to lose the impact that it has. I mean, I think it already has, honestly. It's just going to become redundant, and this Texas Death Match is adding to that. Samoa Joe made his Dynamite debut. He debuted at ROH. Another problem I have is how ROH just became already AEW light. Like, it just seems like Tony Khan bought ROH so he can have more titles on the show that mean nothing. So we have the ROH titles now being defended on Dynamite a lot, even though they mean even less than the titles on AEW already mean. So who cares? Anyway, Samoa Joe squashed Max Caster. And they seem to be setting up some sort of ROH feud with Sanjay Dutt and Jay Lethal with Samoa Joe. Whatever. The Shawn Spears Shawn Dean match sucked. And also, like, this is something WWE does a lot, so people should give Tony Khan shit about it. He doesn't know what to do with the MJF and Wardlow feud. You know, it was set up nicely, but now they're spinning their wheels waiting for the match, even though that match, if it's at the next pay-per-view, is a month and a half away. So they just keep having Wardlow wanting to come out, and somehow their big face keeps being stopped by security. Like, I don't know how this makes their monster face look good if security can stop him every time. Like, back in the day, Stone Cold Steve Austin would always make his way to the ring. Despite any security, he would come up with ideas to get to the ring. Even if the police got involved. But, you know, of course, AEW would never have a story with the police being involved because they want to keep it pure wrestling or whatever. What else? We're getting the feud with Kingston, Santana, and Ortiz and the Jericho Appreciation Society. I mean, I wish this wasn't leading to what is probably a 6-man tag match, because I don't care about that. Jade Cargill cut a hell of a promo. Probably the best promo in AEW this past week. She has improved immensely on the mic. I think she finally totally gets her character. She created the baddie section for her character that she cultivated on Twitter. So Jade Cargill continues to do impressive work. They're hyping up her possible 30th win against an MMA fighter. I think they continue to do good work with Jade Cargill because I think Jade Cargill gets it. She gets her character now, and that promo was great on Dynamite. Whew, and then up next we had the table match that was convoluted as all hell to get the Hardy Boys to win. Like, if you break the table, you're out of the match technically, but you could still fight in the match because there's no DQ. I mean, just make it a normal table match. I don't know what they were trying to do with that, but the old ass Hardy Boys reunion isn't working in AEW. They are falling flat in everything, so that's not great. And then we ended the show with a pretty good tag match. This was the only good thing on the show besides the Jade Cargill promo, was FTR versus the Young Bucks. And I shit on the Young Bucks a lot because they deserve it, because their matches are usually so over the top and ridiculous with no storytelling. But when they are actually not over the top, like in this match, and just put on a good wrestling match, they are way better. So this match was good, especially for a tag match. FTR is hot right now as a tag team, so that is one thing working in AEW for me, kinda, is FTR. It will work even better if it really does lead to the speculation of Bret Hart being their new manager. But right now they're winning without a manager, so I don't know why that would even be a story. So yeah, that about summed up Dynamite. Like, the main event was good, but I'm sorry, the rest of the show was garbage. It just was. And then on Rampage, we get Wheeler Utah versus Jon Moxley. Another bloody battle. But one thing AEW certainly is doing better than WWE right now is at least trying to make more of their wrestlers actually matter. You know, they've built up Wheeler Utah now. They've gotten him over with the AEW crowd. But I also kind of feel weary about that because the AEW crowd are usually just AEW hardcores who will put over anything AEW does. So it's hard for me to actually tell if AEW is doing a good job building people, or if these are just the AEW hardcore fans who will put over anything the company does because it's not WWE. But I still think AEW at least tries to build up the wrestlers way more than WWE does. So let's see. The best promo of the week. I mean, it's definitely Cody Rhodes. But if any women wrestler had a great promo this week, it was Jade Cargill. So those two had the best promos this past week. Cody, because his promo was great, told a story. And Jade Cargill's because she really understands her character and did a great promo in character. The best segment of the week, I mean, was there any good segments on any show this week? I'm going to say no, there wasn't. The worst one was probably New Day and Butch, because New Day should be... all of these characters should be more serious than they're coming across. New Day should get over their happy-go-lucky, trying to be funny shtick that they've been doing for years now. And Butch should not be a total caricature of a character. Best tag team of the week was definitely FTR. Gotta give them credit on that. Best woman wrestler of the week is a toughie. I mean, I had to give it to Jade Cargill only for her promo. No other woman cut a great promo this past week. Maybe Charlotte Flair a little bit. And the best male wrestler of the week is also hard. I mean, I guess it has to be Roman Reigns. Who else would I give it to, honestly? Roman is the only thing WWE has tried to make matter over this past year. So he's kind of the only thing that matters on each of their shows right now. Another gigantic problem as to why their TV shows suck.